Thanks for tuning in live to Proline TV, the Our Lads Football Network, as we get set to talk some more NFL like we did earlier today when we kicked off our 32-team season previews with many top analysts, including Fred Greetham from the OBR. So Fred's been on this network for quite a long time. Had a good talk to him about the Cleveland Browns. Now we're going to talk about the New York Giants with Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. Another team, Ryan, that has big aspirations, just like the Browns for 2025.
Yeah, sure. Big aspirations. It seems like you're starting at the bottom of the NFL draft order, or the top of the NFL draft order, I should say. Yeah, I mean, look, the Giants, they need to get back to competitiveness and respectability. That's the goal for 20. That's the goal. And maybe develop a quarterback along the way.
That would be nice. Whether that happens this season or not, they probably won't want to go down that road. It'd be fortunate if they stay away from Locke in 2025. Probably be good for them. But taking a look at the Giants to prepare for the show, just taking a look at their recent history. Of course, they ended the season 1-11 last year. They have had one playoff appearance since 2017, one playoff win since their 2011 Super Bowl season, and they have finished in the bottom half of the division in 10 of the last 12 years. This is not the way the New York Giants under this ownership group. This is not what they're used to. So it is time to turn things around.
Yeah, it's been boom or bust for a long time. I think the Giants have won a playoff game in 4 of the last 26 seasons. 3 times they went to the Super Bowl. Twice they won it. And once they got one and done, that was the last one with Daniel Jones. So it's been a boom or bust quarter century for the Giants with a lot of bust.
I know a certain fan base right around the corner from the Giants that would love to have that type of
they've been all bust, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so the Giants are under 5.5 win total for this season. And they start up week 1 at the Washington Commanders as a 6.5 point dog. So let's dive in and see exactly what to potentially expect from the Giants as they start camp in just a matter of days. When does camp officially start, Ryan?
A week from today.
Okay, so there you go.
What's the first? Rookies already reported.
Oh, okay. So let's first of all start with injuries, because I know several players are returning from injuries last year. Some we still haven't seen yet. Who are we going to see as far as you know, and at what time of camp will we see some of these guys that missed some action last year and we haven't seen yet this summer?
So I expect Andrew Thomas will start training camp on the physically inactive, unable to perform list. I think he'll be available by week 1, but he didn't do anything on the field in the spring. I would think they'll ease him into training camp. He doesn't need a lot of practice. He dominates practice, even against Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. He dominates practice. So he needs to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, he's one of the 5 best left tackles in football. So, but he's missed 18 of the last 34 games. So he's coming off Liz Frank surgery in October. I think he'll be, somewhere first half of camp. I think he'll be on the field, but I don't think it'll be day 1. Dexter Lawrence didn't do any team stuff, but I think he'll be good to go for training camp. He didn't do any team stuff in the spring, but he did individual stuff. I think he'll be okay. If you want to go further down the depth chart, Victor, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Demujike, he suffered a injury in spring workouts. He'll probably miss the start of training camp. But they were
What about Theo? What about Theo Johnson?
He was on the field during OTAs. He'll be fine.
He was.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. He'll be fine. Bobby Okereke was on the field during OTAs. He looked fine.
Okay.
Said his back feels much better than it did even before he went on IR last year. So they were really beat up last year. Paulson Adebo was on the Saints, but finished the season with a broken leg. He was on doing team stuff in the spring. So they finished a really banged up team last year, but pretty much everybody but Andrew Thomas is on track, I think, for the first day of training camp.
And the
Oh,
rookie.
and John, you know what? John Runyon Jr., we think he had surgery. The Giants won't confirm it. We think he had surgery. He could be eased into training camp as well on his shoulder.
Okay. By the way, was the rookie Darius Alexander? Did he not play?
Oh, good one. No, that's a good one. He didn't do anything in the spring. That's another good one. I don't know the answer to that, Greg. I don't know where he is. I don't know what injury he's had. He didn't do really anything in the spring. So I don't know what his status is for training camp, but that's a good one.
Okay. Let's now, especially for anybody that's interested in going down to camp, that's always a fun time. Give us some camp battles that we should be keeping an eye on. And I'm going to start, first of all, with the one that looks like it's an obvious one. And that is the cornerback spot opposite Paulson Adebo.
Yeah, that would have been my number one. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
how is that? What do you think about, that matchup, that competition, and who's the favorite?
Deonte Banks is the favorite. He's the guy who the Giants want to win. The Giants, this regime, slants battles into the favor of who they want to win them. So Deonte Banks will get every opportunity to win. He's a round one draft pick that they want to prove is not a bust. He had a horrible year last year, and obviously they brought in Adebo to take pressure off Banks, so he's no longer the number one corner. But Cordell Flott is pesky, and he hangs around. He's had opportunities to win starting jobs before. He's never seized the opportunity, but he never fully goes away either. So he's capable of playing the slot or the outside. I think ideally they'd like Banks to win the job and Flott to be the top backup at every spot. I think that would be their ideal situation. But if Banks' effort is a question again, as it was last year, then Flott could steal that job. That's number one. I would say backup quarterback is a really interesting one because Russell Wilson's the starting quarterback here for the start of the season. How long? I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that. But he's going to be the week one starter. I don't know that Jameis Winston is guaranteed to be QB2. Jackson Dart could steal that, the rookie. He's getting first team reps in the spring. He'll get first team reps in the summer. They want to make sure he's coming along with his development. Winston will get some first team reps too, but I would say there's a chance if Jackson Dart has a really impressive summer that he could be elevated above Jameis Winston. I would not rule that out. He's not going to be elevated above Wilson. Not going to be above Wilson, at least not to start. But I wouldn't rule out that he could be the number two quarterback when the season starts.
So if that scenario were to take place, then would there be a good, would we think then that at the deadline that if a team wanted a veteran backup that Winston would be trade bait?
Sure, but you could have had him, teams could have had him for $4 million a year in March and no one took him. So I don't know how desirable Jameis Winston is as a top one or two quarterback to most teams. Like if somebody wanted him as a backup or a competitive starter, they could have paid him $5 million a year and got him before the Giants did. So yeah, I would think if that scenario where he's the number three quarterback came to fruition, then sure, he could be available. But the plan is Russell Wilson starts this year. Jackson Dart starts next year. And the reason Jameis Winston has a 2-year contract is to be the, backup next year and 2-year caretaker for Jackson Dart. He's the guy to help. He's the guy to help mold him, not Russell Wilson.
Staying on offense, how about wide receiver?
I'll give you another training camp battle. Right guard, Greg Van Roten's the incumbent. He's back, but the Giants, again, as I said, they would love for Evan Neal to win this job. They are moving him from right tackle. They are moving him from right tackle, where the 7th overall pick in the draft was a bust, to right guard to try to salvage something out of his career. I don't know. I don't know that he can play right guard, but he did it in college as a freshman. There's still some questions about whether he's too top heavy and loses his balance, and when he's on the ground too much. That still looked to be the case in OTAs, even though it's not a lot of physicality. He's a good run blocker, so that could play to his strength inside. They would love for him to win that job, but they can't. They can't do what they've done in the past and force feed somebody who's not the best player at the position. If they do that, guys in the locker room will be furious.
Well, when you're, I would think when you're a coaching staff that is this close from getting jettisoned, that doesn't happen anymore. It's you're putting your best players out there. I would guess.
I mean, I would guess that too, but it's the most stubborn regime I've ever seen. So,
okay.
So I mean, yes, I would think so, but I didn't think they'd do something. I didn't think they'd have Josh Izudu at left tackle for 2 years, and they did that. So
that's true. Okay. So what about a battle for the backup role, the top backup role at receiver? Because we know who the top three are going to be. I know you did a recent article regarding Smith Marset, and he's the big returner, and he'd like to do a little bit more than that. Most of them will. And I know he's somebody that was interesting when I remember him in college. He had some playmaking ability, which he's shown as far as a returner so far. But Hyatt was a third-round draft pick just a couple of years ago. So what do you think about right now? Do you know if there is a legitimate number 4 on this team?
Yeah, it's Hyatt. I just don't know. Legitimate's a word that's hard to define. He's the fourth guy. He'll get the fourth most snaps. He'll be the first one up if somebody's injured. But he had 8 catches for 62 yards last year. So he is bigger. We heard that last year. Didn't really translate, but he's definitely bigger. The hope here is that his skill set matches up well with Russell Wilson. We all know about Russell Wilson and his moon balls, while Hyatt's strength is his vertical, straight line speed and go balls. So the hope here is that they can, get Hyatt down the field, not too complex routes, and have Russ hit him in stride. So Daniel Jones struggled to get the ball down the field. That kind of negated some of Hyatt. He got frustrated with his role, and last year just ended up being kind of a completely lost year. But the fact that they didn't bring in anybody over him tells you they're not ready to give up on him.
Okay. I know one of our viewers has a question regarding the wide receiver position, so I'll post that right here for you, Ryan. Antonio wants to know what you think about the Giants signing a veteran like Gabe Davis.
I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I guess if Gabe Davis takes the league minimum, which I think he could, because the Jaguars owe him money, so anything would offset. So I guess he probably is looking at a minimum. What I understand is Gabe Davis didn't have a clean bill of health when he came to visit the Giants, however long ago that was, a month ago, 2 months ago. If he gets a clean bill of health, I guess it's possible, though his skill set kind of overlaps with what they have in Slayton and Hyatt. So I don't think he's a perfect fit for the receiving core. There's ties between Joe Shane and Brian Dable and Gabe Davis, which is why he's an obvious candidate. He knows the offense. If you were telling me that they had a bunch of injuries in training camp or early in the season, I would put him at the top of the fill-in list, but I don't think he's somebody that they're like jumping, to add if their top 4 are already healthy.
Okay. Another article I know that you recently worked on were long shots to make the roster. So give me a couple of long shots that you think we need to keep an eye on. Again, just to make the roster, not necessarily break out or anything, but who are we looking at here?
Long shots to make the roster?
Yeah.
Oh, man. They're long shots for a reason, right?
Yeah. Any promising long shots? Any players? Could be a college free agent.
I guess Dalen Cambry is a undrafted rookie free agent who has an extensive special teams background. If you told me he was the 53rd guy on, like as a gunner and kick coverage guy, that could be a guy who could steal a roster spot who most people have never heard of. If there's injuries along the offensive line, Stone Forsythe is a veteran, could steal a roster spot. Probably on the outside looking in right now. Greg Dulcich is a tight end who had like 400 yards receiving with the Broncos as a rookie when Russell Wilson was his quarterback. Russ name drops him like every single time he talks. So
okay.
Russ obviously likes him. I don't see where he fits on the depth chart if you have Theo Johnson, Chris Manhertz, who's basically like a sixth offensive lineman. He's he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. And then Daniel Bellinger, and then the rookie 7th round pick Thomas Fidone. I don't know where Dulcich fits in, but
Yeah.
if Russ likes him, maybe they get a connection going in the summer, and that opens some eyes. I guess that could be a long shot to steal a roster spot.
I'm going to give Antonio some more love because you were just talking about Bellinger. You wanted to know what the chances are that Bellinger would be a surprise cut or trade.
Well, so what Joe Shane does every year is he takes a fourth year player and asks him to take a massive pay cut. And so that's probably going to be Daniel Bellinger this year. And I guess if Daniel Bellinger refused, he could be released.
Okay.
I have him on the bubble in the article you're talking about, the sure things bubble guys and long shots. I have Daniel Bellinger on the bubble, and that's the first time he was obvious. He was a sure thing to make the roster his first 3 years. I have him on the bubble for the exact reason I just told you, which is somebody like Dulcich could steal his roster spot. Like Bellinger, for whatever reason, he had a pretty good rookie season, and then the Giants have done nothing but try to replace him ever since, whether that's trade for Darren Waller, draft Theo Johnson, sign Dulcich. So, literally everything they've done since Bellinger's rookie year is to bump him down the depth chart. So they're obviously not fond of him, but I think he's a kind of a good quality number 2, do it all. Nothing flashy tight end in the NFL, but yeah, I don't think you'd get anything for him in a trade. I think you mentioned the trade. No one's trading for Daniel Bellinger, but like it's a possibility that I guess that he could be cut. Sure.
Okay. Let's see now. By the way, speaking of tight ends, Theo Johnson, I mentioned that he had that injury that ended his season early. What did you think about his rookie season? Because there was a lot of hope that coming out of college that he was a tight end that could do something in the pros, and it looked like he was playing relatively well until the injury came.
He was playing his best ball right before he got hurt. Yeah, I think he started slow. He was playing his best ball right before he got hurt, which is I think why it was, not that it's ever a good time for an injury, but that was a particularly bad time. I remember being in the locker room on Thanksgiving in Dallas, and he spiked his shoes so hard into the locker room when he, after his x-ray, that he knew something was really bad, that it like echoed through the locker room and you could hear a pin drop after that. So he was obviously very frustrated. I thought he flashed some potential as like a red zone threat and like big body over the middle. I don't think he's going to develop into a 1,000-yard or a 900-yard tight end, but I think he can be a situational weapon.
Okay. I know we were on the offense there for a while. Any defensive players that you think might be interesting regarding these long shot roster guys?
They're not as a. I mean, no, they're not as
okay.
not as a quote unquote long shot. I mean, the Giants' defense is pretty good. So like the Giants made a lot of investments in the defense, so it's going to be hard to become a contributor on the Giants defense. Like if you told me somebody stole a roster spot because they're mostly a special teamer who's the 6th corner, I guess that could happen. But the Giants, defense is pretty well set at all 3 levels. I guess maybe like who's the 4th cornerback is up for grabs between like Art Green, Trey Hawkins, guys like that. But you're going pretty far down there.
Okay.
So
I'd keep an eye on Makari Page. I know Michigan players, and he's somebody to keep an eye on at the bottom, of course. And who knows? Probably practice squad more than likely.
Yeah, I would think he's a practice squad guy. Yeah, I think they gave him actual money, so he could be a
Oh,
practice.
okay.
Yeah.
Rick Bowman. Do you expect Brian Dable to run training camp much differently this year in order to avoid another slow start? What are the indicators you'll be looking for?
That's a good question. I'm gonna fall back, Rick, on what I said before about it them being incredibly stubborn. I don't necessarily know that he'll run it much. Like, look, he's gonna run training camp differently in terms of like the third string quarterback never gets reps, and he's got Jackson Dart's gonna get a ton of reps. But like they're still practicing at the same time of day, so it's not like he's doing anything differently from an analytical sports science standpoint or anything. Yeah, I don't know. They've had, compared to what I saw with Joe Judge or even Pat Shermer, they've had a relatively lighter training camp. I'm expecting Aaron Glenn across town to have a pretty physical training camp. He's already talked about tackling. I don't necessarily think that the Giants will have it at like high intensity, totally change it up training camp. I think the organization as a whole has whiplash from so many seasons recently being like the most injured team in the NFL. And I think most of what the Giants do, at least under this regime, is to try to get out of training camp unscathed injury wise.
Okay. As far as training camp is concerned, not necessarily training camp, but the season, and you got to start somewhere. So training camp, this is when you want to see some players start to, especially the younger players, develop. Give me a couple of players on a player or two on both sides of the ball that you think have the best chance of maybe breaking out and giving the Giants something that they've been looking for as these players to develop. Because even last year's draft class was pretty good. So overall, do you think there are a couple of players that we should be keeping an eye on that might be able to have a breakout campaign?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned two, Hyatt and Theo Johnson. Hyatt, if the snaps are there, right? Like, here's the thing with Hyatt that people don't understand all the time is like your fourth receiver doesn't play a lot in the NFL, and Neighbors, Robinson, and Slayton stayed pretty healthy last year. So, like, if they stay healthy again, the opportunities aren't going to be there for Hyatt. If one of those guys gets down, Hyatt with the Russell Wilson factor could be one. Theo Johnson, we just talked about. The Giants can't score, right? In an age of
Yeah.
uh explosive fireworks around the NFL. Since I started in 2018, they're in the bottom of scoring like 6 out of 7 years. They're like 30th or worst in points scored. So they can't score. So like if Theo Johnson can be a red zone weapon, that would be a breakout to me. Banks is somebody I'm looking forward to seeing. This is a make or break year in terms of where he goes in his career. Tyler Nubin, he played like every snap last year. He played like 98% of the defensive snaps and he had one pass defended. Like, it's nice that he was a good against the run, but he needs to be a playmaker. Like, he's taking over an important spot. The Giants had Jabril Peppers, Julian Love, Xavier McKinney. They had all these good safeties, Logan Ryan, and they let them all go. And they went young here, and now they brought in Javon Holland too. Nubin is somebody, he needs to make more plays on the ball. That was his reputation in college at Minnesota. He was a ball hawk. They need to see that Tyler Nubin, not just an Iron Man who plays every snap, but a guy who actually makes a difference.
If the Giants have a better season than expected, and there's going to be those teams that do it every year, and let's say we're at the end of the season and you're looking back and you're writing your story of why the Giants had a successful season. Who would have thought this? Why do you think that'll be?
The defense was exceptional, like top 5 to 10 quality defense, including forcing takeaways. They had some. They set the NFL record for most consecutive games without an interception last year. Like, that can't happen. With the talent they have on defense now, they have to be a disruptive defense. So like they had a top 10 defense, and Russell Wilson had more left in the tank than anybody thought after he left Pittsburgh.
And then what about?
Oh, and the offensive line stayed healthy. Because I think if the 5 guys that they have play 14 or 15 or 16 games together, I think it's an average offensive line. And when I say that, I mean that as a compliment. Like,
Yeah, I was going to say, wow.
the Giants
Okay.
haven't had an average offensive line in 15 years. So, like, I think it can be like the 15th best offensive line in the NFL if those 5 guys stay healthy. If Andrew Thomas is on the shelf for half the season again, if John Runyon is on the shelf again, if John Michael Schmitz is bad again and has to be replaced by like an Austin Schlottman, and then all of a sudden it's 8, 9, 10 guys are starting games on the offensive line again, then they're going to be bad.
Thibodeau. It's been a little bit of a disappointing start to his career. He hasn't obviously lit the world on fire, but what do you think about him as a player? Do you think there's more to his game that he can give that for some reason he hasn't given it yet?
He's a victim of like what you expect from a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Like he's not a bad player. Like he has 21
Sure.
sacks in 3 years. Like
Mm-hmm.
like that's that's pretty good. And
Yeah.
that's a pretty good player. And he defends the run, I would say adequately, maybe slightly above average, though there are plays where he totally gets taken out of it. I would say, yeah. I mean, he hasn't lived up to top 5 pick, but he's been like a quality player. He's not like, if I had to start listing problems for the Giants the last 3 years, he's not on that list.
But do you think there is another gear? Do you think there's like a 15 sack season in him?
I think there is, and I don't know if we're going to see it because his workload is going to be decreased by Abdul Carter's arrival. Like, he probably isn't a starter anymore, Kayvon. But I think I know the hope internally is that he's been playing 82, 85% of the defensive snaps over his first 3 years, and possibly just getting gassed by the end of the games. And I know that the hope internally is that Kayvon at 68 to 72% of the defensive snaps or whatever, you get a more efficient, productive Kayvon. Like a higher sack to snap ratio than you've been getting, like more impact fourth quarter plays. I think that is it. And like he gets hurt by look, he was in the same draft class with Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson, right? And they have both been better than he is. So, are more productive than he is. So he needs to get to that gear, but he has been, for a team that drafted DeAndre Baker and Kadarius Toney and Eli Apple and Eric Flowers, he has been far from a Giants draft bust.
Okay, Russell Wilson. What do you think about what you've seen and heard so far? And what is your what is your best guess about how you think he's going to handle a season in New York on a team that may not be a winning team?
I mean, I think he'll handle it fine. He's a pro's pro, right? Like he's never going to throw his teammates under the bus publicly. He's relentlessly positive. I think he'll handle it fine. I just don't know I don't know how much he can play, and I don't know how he'll handle a benching if that comes in, week 10. We've seen where, veteran Marcus Mariota or Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr, those guys don't handle the benching well when they feel like there's other factors at play or whatnot. And, if the Giants famously benched Kurt Warner when they were 5-4 to play Eli Manning. If the Giants are 5-4, if the Giants are 5-4 this year, they're building Russell Wilson a statue. They're not benching him. No, I think he's suited for the adversity, but again, I just don't know. He's got a bit of a reputation out there for like that. The relentless positivity comes off as phony and wears teammates out and stuff. The Giants teammates I've talked to so far are absolutely high on him. Now we'll see what happens when the losses start. But I mean, I think it was Wandale Robinson who said him and Darius Slayton this is one of the most honest things I ever heard. They got together with Wilson over the spring, and they had their preconceived notions of how much he had left. And they're like, oh, this is better than we thought. So they're optimistic about him right now. The problem is once he gets the ball in his hands, once the game starts, Russell Wilson still holds the ball too long, still takes too many sacks, and that's going to frustrate guys like Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, and it's not a good match too if that offensive line isn't really average. So I definitely have to run the football, and that's where Cam Scatterbo comes in. I think everybody, especially I'm sure in New York, is very excited about what kind of a career he could have and what kind of an impact he can have, even just as a New York athlete and the type of player he is. It just seems like he will be an instant, if he isn't already, an instant fan favorite. So is he going to be somebody that you're really interested to see as well in training camp? And is there any other players, young players like that you're interested? Like if you had to zero in training camp and just watch a player or two that, and I'm talking about the stars, but some guys like Scatterbo, maybe even some of the younger or new veterans, who would you want to zero in on?
So we're not talking starters, because the only player worth watching every single play is Malik Neighbors.
Yes, not talking starters.
He's phenomenal in training.
He's
unbelievable.
That's too easy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Scatterbo is definitely interesting. So a bunch of things. I'll say is like, I loved his running style in college. When I was standing next to him at practice, I could not believe how small he is. So I understand why I heard from certain teams during the draft that they were reluctant to draft him or pushed him down the board because there's concerns that his style, which is his trademark, is his body is going to have a hard time holding up to that when he's running into NFL middle linebackers and safeties. Like, yeah, that worked in college. That might not work when, who insert guy, Bobby Wagner is going to meet you in the hole. Like that might not work. So some teams were afraid of that he'd spend a lot of time on the shelf because of injuries. I talked to Brandon Jacobs, who's obviously a big back who ran physical for the Giants. He was like, I hope Scatterbo doesn't get caught up in that. I hope he doesn't get caught up in it. He has to be the guy who runs guys over. Like the object is to run away from them, not run into them. So I think that would do Scatterbo some good to not. Yeah, sure. Like you don't want to take away one of his strengths, but he shouldn't be seeking out contact either. And it's one of the reasons I'll be watching him in training camp is because training camp fights usually start when an offensive player initiates contact with a defensive player, because defensive players have such limited rules in training camp where they can't tackle. So they feel like you shouldn't be initiating contact with them because their hands are tied. So somebody like Scatterbo is eventually going to run somebody over in training camp, and that's going to light a fuse. So yes, he is somebody I will be watching in training camp.
Okay. And he's the obvious one, but you got anybody else?
Dante Miller's a second-year player who is all speed. He could win like a returner job or be the fourth running back on the depth chart. He could rip off some big runs in training camp. Those are always fun to see when a guy bursts out of the hole in training camp. Dante Miller's a guy who could challenge for a spot on the bottom of the 53. Jackson Dart, obviously I'll watch every snap. He's the future of the franchise. Anything he does will be noteworthy.
What are they working on with
Darius Alexander, who you mentioned before?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's competing to start next to Dexter Lawrence. I mean, the Giants' run defense, particularly, they have the best defensive tackle in the NFL, or maybe Chris Jones, the second best defensive tackle in the NFL. And the position group is still bad because they had nothing behind him since the Leonard Williams trade. While they upgraded it this year, Roy Robertson Harris, Darius Alexander, Jeremiah Ledbetter. So it's a better group, but Alexander's the guy who, if he's disruptive in the backfield, he could win that starting job. He's somebody that I think Like I said, I didn't see anything from him this spring, so I'll have a close eye on him in camp.
Okay, so you're at training camp, you've got the binoculars, and you're paying attention to Jackson Dart. What are you looking for that you know the coaching staff is trying to get him to do better at, to improve his game? What is that? So, when you're fixed on him, what are you looking for as a fan to see if he's doing those things correctly?
Well, I'll look for his footwork because coaches have told me that needs to improve. So, how comfortable is his footwork? I'm not a footwork expert, but I'll have an eye on that because coaches have told me they were concerned about that. Is he going through his progressions? Because there was a lot of first read stuff at Ole Miss. So, is he going through progressions? And then is he making smart decisions? One of Jackson Dart's things, and it's fun to watch, is he's got a little Jameis Winston in him. Like, no hole is too small for him to think he can throw the ball into. And that led to quite a few dazzling catches in the spring, and it led to quite a few interceptions, tip ball interceptions. So is he, as the practices go, taking the check down or throwing it away? What's his interception count in the spring? Is he still trying to play hero ball in the spring, in the summer? That's something I'll watch.
Okay. So, I want to, before we go, let's see, let me just pop this up. So this is the Giants win total. So they are at 5.5, as I mentioned. And it looks like it's actually more on the under 5.5 with that minus 155 over there. So this is what they think about the Giants. I know it's still early. You probably want to take a look at preseason and training camp and avoid injuries and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you'll have your own analysis and predictions as the season starts. But right now, what do you think? Do you think the Giants, based on their schedule, do you think they're a 6-win team?
I picked them to go 5-12 when the schedule came out. So I'll stick with that until I see training camp. I picked them to go 5-12. Here's what I'll say. They have the hardest schedule in the NFL. You can tell me like, oh, well, you don't know that, Rye. Like teams get injured and good teams are bad teams and bad teams are good teams. I'm pretty sure the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Chargers, the Lions are going to be good teams, right? I'm pretty sure that's going to happen.
Denver. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Denver's one I'm like, I don't know if that, but Denver might be bad, but San Francisco might be good, right? Like, so like that might, like the Lions,
Bay, Detroit,
the Packers, right? Like, I'm pretty sure those teams are going to be good. The Commanders now have Jaden Daniels. Like, I'm pretty sure those are going to be tough games. So,
yeah, that is a tough schedule. Yeah.
So,
why is it tough? It's because they got the NFC North.
Well, their two divisions are the 3 playoff team divisions. They play the whole NFC North, so the Packers, Vikings, and Lions, and they play the whole AFC West, so the Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos. Yeah. So, so that, I mean, there's no gimmies. But here's what I'll say. I've said it a couple times on other places. I'll say it again here. If you watch the Giants, and the Giants fans who are watching this are, they're watching this, they're diehards, they watch the games every game. The Giants were unwatchable at times last year. Like, they weren't just bad. They were like D-level football, like couldn't get first downs, couldn't score. Like, they struggled to function at times last year. And I've seen that before. They did that in Joe Judge's last year. So, like, the talent on the field will be much better. The quality of football will be much better. I think they will be competitive deeper into games than they were last year. What does that mean? I mean, if you're betting on the games, nothing. If you're like, 89 years old and need to see them win now, then nothing. But like, I think they'll be a better product. I don't know how many more wins because that schedule is brutal. That's why I picked 5-12. But like, if you're asking me, like, this roster is significantly, I knew last year was going to stink. Like, people were trying to tell me last year at this time that they could be a playoff team. No, I think I picked them to win 4 games last year. Like, I knew that team was going to stink. This team, I think, like, if all broke their way, they could win 7 or 8. That schedule's so bad, like, that I'm picking them to win 5.
Okay, well,
and they're also going to make a quarterback change at some point. So once you make the quarterback change, then all of a sudden it's like, well, now we're playing a rookie. He needs 3 or 4 games to like get his feet wet and adapt. Like, I'm not expecting Dart to come in like CJ Stroud or Jaden Daniels.
No,
So, like most rookie quarterbacks, they get, if he starts 5 games, he probably goes 1-4. You know what I mean?
sure.
So that's why I think they're going to struggle. Win total wise, they're going to struggle.
All right. Well, hey, it's all
But
you
it's
can
not
ask.
about the win total. To
No,
me,
it's
it's not
not.
about the win. It's about young players getting better
Yep.
and Jackson and feeling like ending the season feeling like we don't need to do anything at quarterback. Jackson Dart's our guy. Jameis Winston is our backup. Let's move. Malik Neighbors still looks good. The defense is good. Let's add some finishing pieces to a playoff. Not a Super Bowl team. Let's add some finishing pieces to a 2026 playoff team.
Do you have any idea if everything like is scripted like normal, and they, because of the schedule, by midseason that they're not going to be a playoff team, that and that Dart is showing enough progress in practice that they believe he should be ready to play some games? Where around the schedule do you think that they would throw him in and get his first start?
I picked, and I don't know, right? This is all speculation. No one's told me the answer to that question, but like I guessed around week 10 was my guess. Like they could be 2-8, 3-7, something like that. After they play Philly in Philly, they have San Francisco at home in week 9. If they didn't want him to have the pressure of being at home, then they have Chicago in week 10 in Chicago. Like those are the 2 spots. The bye is so late. It's week 14. I guess you could come back after the bye and he could start the final 4 games. To me, that's too late. Like if you're 3-7 and rolling out Russell Wilson, give Jackson Dart the final 8 games instead of the final 4 games. That's kind of what I have an eye on. But look, I'm not going to lie to you, Greg. I would have told you that probably about if we had this conversation in 2019 about Daniel Jones, I probably would have said something similar. And they benched Eli Manning, a future Hall of Famer, after 2 games for Daniel Jones. So
That's true.
if you told me they were 0-4 and going to play the Saints week 5 and it was Jackson Dart, I guess I wouldn't be surprised.
By the way, it looks like Daniel Jones probably going to start for the Colts week 1.
He is. Yeah.
You think he's so. You think he could be one of those guys that he's still young. You think he could have success with the Colts if everything goes his way?
I mean, I really don't. Like I've never thought that he was. I never thought he was like a top tier NFL quarterback. Like if you told me he had like an Andy Dalton career, I guess I would believe that. Yeah, like could lead a team to the playoffs and hang around for a long time as like a placeholder quarterback. Yeah, I think he could do that. Do I think he's no? But do I think he's going that a year from now we're going to talk about Daniel Jones like we talk about Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney as the Giants who got away and became like first team All Pros? I do not, or even Leonard Williams, who should have been an All-Pro. I don't think that they'll have the same level of regret over losing Daniel Jones.
What are you working on now? Anything specific besides just getting ready to go to camp?
Just training camp previews every which way. Every way you can preview training camp. The big questions, the roster position battles, all that stuff is coming over the next week.
Well, I look forward to hopefully get the opportunity to talk to you during the season. Last year, of course, made no sense. But if they do at least, compete better this year and maybe give the Giant fans a little bit of hope and maybe there's something to talk about, then that'd be nice for us to talk during the season. Or at least maybe we could talk if Rutgers continues to play well, our Scarlet Knights.
They're going to hire an AD anytime soon?
Yeah, I know. Of course. They went ahead and they did a great job with the, what was it? The president. Yeah. That was a home run hit. What, you didn't like that?
No, I mean, I don't know anything about it.
I
know he's from LSU, but I don't know anything.
Considering, it's Rutgers, that's supposed to be a home run hit. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so Ryan, appreciate your time as always. And hopefully we'll do this again at some point during the season.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. That's Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. We'll have links in the description where you can check Ryan out as far as where to find out how to read his content, how to follow him on X. I'm sure anybody watching this video live, at least, knows everything about Ryan, but anybody that just happens to check this on-demand video out and you don't know who Ryan is, check the links and you'll find out. Ryan and I think we've been doing now, along with Mark Lawrence, my partner here at Proline TV, we've been doing season previews, I think, for about 3 or 4 years now. So I forgot to just mention that to Ryan. I'm going to probably see him in about a month when we preview the season. So hopefully we'll do that again at some point, the week before the season begins. So look out for that if you like following what Ryan does. By the way, if you're an NFC fan in general, I will be talking with RJ Ochoa, who covers the Dallas Cowboys, on Friday, and David Harrison, who covers the Washington Commanders, on Friday. All of this was by accident, so it's no sort of NFC East week. Again, Fred Greetham came on board talking about the Browns earlier today here. All of our shows, as far as these interviews, are live here on Proline TV. So if you want to see me interviewing all 32 of our contacts for the NFL, then subscribe here to Proline TV. Also, if you're big into the NFL draft and you love, if you didn't notice, the depth chart that I was surfing through was from the ourlads.com website. They have the best depth charts online, any NFL and college football. So you can check that out over at ourlads.com. There's a link in the description as well, especially for their recent draft review guide that just came out a couple of weeks ago. Of course, they come out with the draft guide every year, which is very popular. Draft guide just came out, but during the season, the depth charts are number one, and those, especially if you're into fantasy football and such, check it out at ourlads.com. And if you have no idea who I'm talking about, then hey, check them out, because you'll be glad you did, because they update the depth charts quicker and better than anybody out there. So, and also don't forget or keep in mind that we also are talking about college football as well. Matter of fact, I just interviewed today our Auburn Tigers analyst about the Auburn Tigers this season and the Texas Longhorns with Arch Manning. So we just did that at 4:00 Eastern, a little bit earlier today. Already did Ohio State earlier this year, or actually about a month or so ago. And those two teams might be 1-2 to kick off the season in late August. So I'm going to be tackling a ton of college football analysts too, getting ready for the college football season. I will not be doing 130 of those interviews though, but we'll be doing a lot, and a lot of the top teams as well. So once again, if you like all this type of content, check us out here at Proline TV. And don't forget also the Our Lads Football Network over at ourlads.com. They have the YouTube channel. You can check them out there as well. So for Ryan Dunleavy, I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in here to another preview for the NFL for 2025 on the Our Lads Football